Okay, so hello everyone. Before starting, I would just like to mention that I hereby grant permission to TDV World to share this recorded video on their YouTube channel for the guidance of AKU aspirants. Please note that this video is intended solely for the guidance purposes and should not be considered as final or professional career advice. It is meant to assist you in your journey. My name is Zia, and I did my O levels and then I did my A levels. So I did my A levels from the Lyceum, and my percentage was in O levels. My percentage was 92.5, and in A levels my percentage was 92.9. So a little about myself, my extracurriculars and hobbies. I am interested in community service. I was always involved in volunteering in different events at school. I was also the chair of the yearbook society at my school. So basically, I designed a yearbook website and a lot of things along those lines. So this was a brief overview of some of my hobbies. There are several others, but this should give a good picture. So coming to the main part, talk about the AKU test preparation process. So to begin with, I would like to say that it was hard. It wasn't necessarily very easy, but it was doable. So if anyone is watching this video right now and is preparing for the AKU test, I would just like to say that do your best and always be positive because it is doable. So if I had to isolate myself or miss out on social gatherings, so I think at points, yes, I did have to do that especially when it was very close to the exam. But something that I would like to mention is that I would still recommend that you kind of continue to have a life outside of academics because it will help you and you need those breaks sometimes. But obviously keeping that in proportion so that you don't go overboard. Just keep a balance. So this was my first attempt in applying for AKU. And so how many months did I have to prepare for AQ test? It was basically like my CIEs ended on 31st May. I gave my last CIE, so I had from 1st June until 6th August when we had the initial AKU test before it got reconducted. So around June, July, and yeah, so basically 2 months to prepare for the AKU test. Now I'd like to go into the details of how I prepared for each subject and what books I used and what resources I used. So for chemistry, biology, and physics, so basically the three sciences, for AKU, it is recommended that you use the Federal Board and Punjab Board textbooks. So I had never even basically opened those textbooks before when I started preparing for AKU test, because of course in A levels you have completely different syllabus and different resources. I opened those books and so I would keep the syllabus. So I'd recommend that you get the syllabus printed out as soon as you start preparing, and I would keep the syllabus next to me and I'd have the books next to me. So I just try to see what topics are present in the syllabus, and it wasn't like I had to just use one specific book. It was more of what's included in the syllabus. Now say there's a learning objective of let's just say glycolysis, right, in biology. So I'd just look at the learning objectives and then I'd see, okay, which book has that specific topics. And in the syllabus or in the learning outcomes of the AKU test, which is available on their website, if you go and you search AKU MBBS, you'd see the syllabus for all three subjects. So in that, you'll see that it's very detailed. It's like it has all these sub points and everything. So you basically need to see that whatever sub point is mentioned in that syllabus, which book has that specific sub point. So I just have both the books next to me and I'd see कि अच्छा इसमें ज़्यादा अच्छा लिखा हुआ है, इसमें it makes more sense to me. So I just refer to either of those two books. So having both the Punjab and the Federal book next to you and just switching between both. It's not like एक ही use करना है दूसरे को बिल्कुल भी नहीं करना, but it's more of using both of them. For me, it was something like that. And for chemistry, I would say I majorly use the federal textbook books because I felt like the organic chemistry part, especially just say reactions and mechanisms and everything. So for me, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but when I'm studying a topic, I really need to understand it first before committing it to memory. So I can't just memorize something without understanding how it happened, and I think it's the same for everyone. So जो फेडरल का बुक है उसके अंदर the explanation is very very good, so you can easily understand and you can easily follow. In Punjab textbook board, especially for chemistry, sometimes I felt like there wasn't enough information, so it was very confusing. So for organic chemistry, I'd say use federal book, and for inorganic, it was also most of the federal book, but for some topics I also use the Punjab board book. And for biology, it was again both Punjab textbook board and federal board books. For physics, I really didn't use a specific book, right? Physics is very like practical, so uske liye you don't really need to read. Especially physics ke andar you need to have really solid concepts, and if your concepts are good, you don't really need to read the book a lot. So for that, I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos. So YouTube videos were my go-to for physics, and even for chemistry, right? I used a lot of YouTube videos for chemistry as well. So for physics, there was a channel that I watched a lot, and his name is Aga Pandey. He's an Indian YouTuber, and I'd say his YouTube videos were excellent. It helped clear all my concepts, and after watching those videos, I would have a really good idea of the topic, and I found it very easy after that. So I would say even for chemistry, I watched the Aga Pandey, the YouTuber. He had on his channel, there were also really excellent videos for chemistry also sometimes, but you just need to make sure that it's relevant to your syllabus. Sometimes it's a little different because of course it's following the Indian syllabus. So but for in general, for whichever topic you're studying, just Google whatever topic you're studying, just Google that topic, and whichever video comes at the top, with the most recommended one, just go for that one, because usually it's the one that's the best, and because it's highly viewed, so it comes on the top. The strategies, the study technique was basically like I mentioned, just go through the first, understand the topic, use YouTube videos, read the book and all of that to basically understand it. And then the last part, which is the most important part, I'd say, is that you need to practice questions, right? Without practicing questions, your preparation is incomplete. And so for practicing questions, so I only used one resource, and I would recommend it to everyone. It's a website that has questions. It's called premed.pk. You have to get a subscription. It's along the lines of 2,500 to 5,000, I believe, for MCAT and AKU both. So I would say that their question bank was really helpful, because AKU test is usually a level of difficulty higher than MCAT. So you need to practice relevant, similar questions during your preparation time, so that when you're going to give the exam, you've already practiced similar questions. So I used that extensively. I used to practice questions from there after doing each and every topic. So there's that. Now for science and math reasoning, okay, this is the tricky one, right? A lot of people struggle with it. So science or math reasoning ke liye, there's actually like several resources. Like in for someone from an FSC background, I would recommend that you do SAT math. So SAT math 1, uske liye there's a book called the College Panda Math. It's also available online, and I'll share a picture if I can of the book, the title. That book is really helpful if your background knowledge in mathematics is very minimum. For me, I had taken A-level mathematics, which is usually a very advanced level of math. So I didn't struggle as much with math, and I was easily able to do it, but it might not be the same for everyone. So that's something I highly recommend. And for science reasoning, there's no special resource that you can use for science reasoning. But on premed.pk, there's a question bank for science reasoning as well. So if you want to practice that, you can use that resource. I never really practiced for science reasoning, but for math reasoning, what I would do is that this is also something I recommend everyone, especially if you're struggling with math, is that subako. So when I would get up, I would spend around an hour or two, usually an hour every day, and do like 15 to 20 questions of math, any topic. It's just so that you get in the habit of doing math. So if you practice math every day, you will get the hang of it. Take some time, but imagine if you spend 1 hour every day for the next 2 months. that would, compound to a lot of hours. So your preparation will be good enough for math. So some do's and don'ts for preparing for AKU. So some do's are that basically AKU syllabus is very extensive. It's usually much more than the MCAT syllabus. So while it is important to do every single topic that's in the syllabus, because a question can come from anywhere, right? But it is also it's more important to focus more on the high yield topics. That's something I learned, and it was very helpful. So in the syllabus there's some topics which are high yield and some that are low yield, right? So if you have a really good understanding of the high yield one, which there is a possibility of those topics coming more in the exam. Just say organic is obviously high yield because you always have questions from organic. And in biology, topics like bioenergetics, chemical coordination, support and movement, those are like those high yield topics. So for those topics, I would say have a really strong understanding of those topics. So that's a must do thing. And for others, so I'll be really honest, for me it was very hard to get an understanding of the kingdoms in biology, because A levels mein kingdoms nahi hote. And when I had to first do kingdoms, I was like, this is something that I don't like at all. And what I ended up doing is that I did all the rest of the kingdoms, but I did kingdom Animalia, but I did it really briefly. So I didn't go into those very small details. मैंने उसको ऊपर से किया because I knew that if I know everything else really well, which I did everything else like to the best of my ability. So I kind of went little slow on the kingdom Animalia and kingdom Plante also. I didn't do it as well. So that is sometimes all right if you are really good with the rest of the syllabus. If one small topic is left, and it happens for a lot of people that at the end there are still topics that they're left with, which might happen with you as well. So that is okay. Don't worry too much about it. This question is that it is said that A levels and O level students have an advantage over FSC students, and that A level students crack the test more easily than FSC background. What is your thought or response on this thought or myth? While this might be true if you look at the overall statistics, but the thing that I noticed while I was preparing for AKU is that the syllabus for the AKU test, they are totally like 100% aligned with the FSC syllabus. So if you only do the A level syllabus, it's more like, I would say, 50 to 60% of your preparation for AKU test. So 50 to 60% of the knowledge is new for O and A level students. On the other hand, the kind of questions that come in the AKU test, which means that it is very application based and they test your understanding, your concepts more than rote learning. So there is some part of learning and memorization, but for the most part they test your concepts and your application of knowledge. So they'll give you real life scenarios where you need to apply your knowledge. So I think that part where the questions are very conceptual, that part might give A-level students an advantage. But even if you're watching this video and you're from an FSC background, if you practice enough questions to get the hang of the type of questions that come in the AKU test, then you would not be at a disadvantage. You can easily crack the test. It is a hard test, but very doable if you follow the right steps. Did I join any academy or coaching for AKU MBBS prep? So no, I did not join any academy for preparation of the AKU test. Now, since O levels and even in A levels, I had never gone to any tuitions. So I'm really reliant on self-studying, and going to tuitions doesn't work for me, and it was not something I was used to. So मैंने सोचा that for AKU test I would not try something that I had never done before, and no, this is not the time to experiment a lot, and I was already comfortable with self-studying. I started studying. I would look up some topics on YouTube. I found that if everything is literally available online, then I would not have any major difficulties while self-studying. So I decided that I'm going to study on my own and I will not join a tuition. Do I recommend joining a coaching or academy? So I would say this depends. Now, if prior to studying for AKU test in your FSC and or A levels, if you have gone to tuitions before, if you are used to having that routine and you think that you cannot force yourself to study or follow a timetable on your own, then I would say that you should join a tuition because you're just used to that mode of studying. But if you are comfortable with self-studying, then go for it. So how I managed my timing during the test. Now, this is a very known phenomena that usually during the AKU test, a lot of students face difficulty with the timing. And this is true. It was also true for me. I struggled with the time for the most part. And especially this happens when you come to the science and math reasoning part, which is towards the end of the exam. उसमें क्या होता है that you have spent a large proportion of your time on the sciences section. So by the time you come to the reasoning section, you don't have enough time. So for that, there's several strategies you can use, right? Now, one of those is that, and this is what I personally applied, so it did help me a lot. उसमें ये था that when I first started solving the exam, I went through the entire exam, and this is a strategy that is recommended by a lot of test takers. So I went to the entire exam and I did all the questions that I knew for sure. Like, so when I saw the question, I was like, okay, I know this question. I didn't have any second doubts. I could easily pick out one option. मैंने वो सारे questions कर लिए. And then there were some questions that I was like, I'm confused between two options. I'm not too sure if which one is correct. So for those questions, I would put like, an asterisk next to the question and I would skip it. मैंने वो छोड़ के I did an entire round of the paper. In the second round, I did those questions in which I had some level of doubt. So I spent some more time on those and I solved those questions. Okay, and then there were obviously some questions that I didn't know anything about, and those shouldn't be too high in number, but to have a few of those is not too bad, because you can still leave, in the worst case scenario, you can leave questions and then still make it. So there were some questions that I thought that, I don't know this one. So I don't remember the exact number, but I left a good number of questions. And the reason that I say that you should do this, because in the sciences section, jo ke biology, physics or chemistry hai, in that you have negative marking. You lose 0.25 marks for every question that you get wrong. Okay, so it's better to leave a question that you don't know at all than to attempt it, because then you will end up losing more marks. So for the sciences section, I would say, leave those questions that you don't know about. But for the reasoning section, it is recommended that you attempt all the questions, because इसमें negative marking नहीं होता. To manage your time during the exam, it is also very important that you practice beforehand. So I mentioned practicing questions, but also includes practicing a full length exam paper. So before the exam, I think a week before the exam, I did several mock exams. These were also available on premed.p. Do an entire exam under timed settings. So I would have the time that's allotted actually in the exam, and I did several of those question papers, and I think that helped me a lot while giving the actual exam. I would say practice those mock exams close to your actual exam. And even when you're practicing MCQs, try and make sure that you solve each question within a minute, so under a minute. That's something that you need to aim for. So how should a 11th or 12th grade student who will appear for the AKU test prepare for the test during 11th or 12th grade? Now, the preparation for AKU test starts way before the last 2 months, right? So uske liye you need to start preparing from your O levels या metric से, at least. What I mean by that is that in your metric and inter, in your 11th and 12th grade, you need to make sure that you're clearing your concepts, you are understanding everything that is going on, and you're not slacking. When I was preparing for the AKU test, I had just given my A-level exams, so all of my basics, they were really strong because I did everything really well in A-level. So I had a good background knowledge, and वो बहुत important होता है, because during your AKU test preparation, you're just building on to what you already know. So you're not starting from scratch, because that takes a lot more time. You don't have that much time. So you just kind of build on what you already know. And so for 11th and 12th grade students right now, I would just say that really work hard during your school exams and board exams, so that you are basically, while you do this, you are preparing for AKU test. So does AKU prefer high FSE percentage students, or they neglect the FSE percentage? Can you state the number of students who got admission with least percentage in your batch? So I don't have the exact numbers with me right now. So for AKU, I would say they probably don't neglect the FSE percentage, but as long as you're above the eligibility criteria, and as long as you pass the test, that is the most important part, passing the test. As long as you've passed the test, then depends a lot on your interview and your extracurricular activities. Now, this is something that I would also like to mention in the question I answered earlier, just me, I was talking about how 11th and 12th grade students should prepare. So, usme another aspect of preparing for AKU test, which is after you clear the test, you have to give interviews, right? Interview, it is important that you express your extracurriculars and your hobbies. I would say that it's very important that during your 11th and 12th grade, you are involved in some sort of extracurricular activities. Now, this could be different for a lot of people. Some people are involved in sports, some people like to do arts or related things, some people are involved in community service. So, whatever it is that you enjoy, you need to make sure that you have some degree of involvement in those activities. Thing is, it doesn't have to be something extraordinary. It can be the smallest things. It can include something you can do within your house. Apne ghar pe you can do something, so that would also include as your extracurricular or hobby. At the end, I would just like to mention that this is a long journey. It is definitely hard, and each one of us who prepare for the AKU test and eventually get into AKU, we all share the same struggles that you might be sharing right now. And even though it might seem that it is a very far-fetched goal, that you might not be able to do it, but I have confidence that if I can do it, anyone can do it. Just be confident and just do your best, and best of luck to everyone watching.